Hi, Nick van Aarde here. In the background here we've got Roderick busy pressing some Merlot today. Quality is looking great, but it was a very long harvest, about 2 weeks longer than normal, and we actually finished on the last day of March. So a late harvest. I've still got about 6 tanks post macerating where I leave the wine on the skins after fermentation, and then we taste through the tanks every day to see till we get the perfect, real nice softness and suppleness on the tannins. So when I think the tannins are perfect after tasting the wine every day, we then drain off the free run juice, that gets separated, and then we put it into a basket press, like in the background here. It's a slow pressing cycle over an hour and a half, where the juice that's still stuck in the berry gets pressed out slowly. We find that the pressed wine is slightly more tannic, has slightly lower acidity than our free run, so we keep it separate, and then we might at a later stage blend some of the pressed juice to give a bit of structure to the free run juice. What we do with all the skins after we've pressed it off is it gets dumped into the back of our tractor here and then takes its way all the way to our compost heap, where we're busy mixing it with a lot of wood chips, garden cuttings, and we're also looking to approach some of the horse farms in the area to ask if we could maybe remove their manure for them. And this will then be made into compost, which we'll then use in our gardens and in some of our vineyard areas where we're looking for slightly stronger growth, just to help the vines along. I've asked Etienne to Blanche, our vineyard consultant, why doing a post-harvest irrigation is so important after we've taken the grapes off.
Good afternoon. I'm sitting in a Cabernet Franc vineyard that has been recently harvested, and it has received its post-harvest irrigation. So normally we don't really associate irrigation with terroir expression, but down here in the temperate and warm climate of South Africa, post-harvest irrigation is probably the most important and most crucial irrigation that you can give. At Oldenburg we do supplementary irrigation, so most of the irrigation actually happens post-harvest instead of in the time preceding harvest. So in South Africa, generally the grapes ripen a bit earlier compared to cooler wine regions. So we see ripening basically in March and late Feb, and that means the grapes or the vines are exposed to warm temperatures for quite a while before autumn set in. And this is what we need to do, is we need to buffer the vine against the stress post-harvest, because there's still some warm weather. And then during this time there's also a root flush. Okay, this is when the fine roots explore the soil and try and accumulate some more nutrients before the winter cold, so that it's properly buffered against the winter cold. So this post-harvest irrigation actually stimulates the fine root development, and just helps the vine before it's basically its hibernation. It's the collecting, like squirrels do collect acorns. That's basically the same that happens here, and the post-harvest irrigation is supporting that action.
Okay, so I've got some really exciting news. We have just installed a new solar system on the top of our roof of our cellar, just in time for World Earth Day. But at the moment here I'm standing next to a system that we really put in 2011. We've got a whole array of solar panels, and we've been using this to substitute our electricity coming from the grid. And the idea is that we will become less dependent on the grid. And as you know, in South Africa, sometimes the power goes out, so it would be good to be able to be less dependent on Eskom. So the great thing about South Africa is that we have really high solar radiation compared to the rest of the world, and by becoming greener and using the power of the earth around us, the power of the sun, we can really reduce our carbon footprint. Before I run out of power, let me quickly go and recharge. There's no better way to recharge than with our featured wine of the month, the Rondekop 2018 Per Se Cabernet Sauvignon. On the nose, really showing that cool climate typicity of the Beinhoek, where we get more red fruit dominance on our cabs than dark fruit dominance. Lots of bramble berries, cranberries, a bit of raspberry, freshly shaved pencil shavings, and then that typical lovely slight cigar box character. Lovely dark red color on the palate. That lovely fine powdery elegant tannin that we get here from the cool climate in the Beinhoek. And with this cool climate wine comes a very low pH, so a great wine for aging. This is one of those wines you can put away for 15 years plus, and it will reward you well going forward. That's me. Cheers.